Okay, here is chapter 15 of Toby's story. A couple of weeks after my first lie still with Granddad, Mona came to get me. It was afternoon and Dorothy and I were playing chase the ball outside in the yard. Sorry, Dorothy, but Toby's got a very important appointment, Mona said, clipping my leash onto my collar. She took me to a car. Patsy sat in the front seat and drove, while Mona and I sat in the back. I pressed my nose to the window, which was open just a crack at the top. Wind rushed in, packed full of smells that made me dizzy with excitement. So wonderful! When the car stopped and we got out, I looked around in surprise to see all the people there. So many new friends. I wagged and wagged as Mona took me on my leash through the crowd, and people smiled and stopped to pet me. One little girl even gave me a crunchy, salty treat from a bag that rustled in her hand. I liked this place very much. Come on, Toby. The race is going to start soon, Mona urged, tugging on my leash. She took me to where the crowd was thickest. A group of boys was standing together on the grass, and a thin dirt road, like the one Tyler and I followed to get to the ranch, led off into some trees. Good, we're just in time, Mona said. Here, Toby, do you want to see? She picked me up and held me. I squirmed so that I could lick her chin. Someone shouted, and the boys lined up across the grass. Then I began to squirm harder in Mona's arms. Tyler was there with all the other boys. My whole body quivered with eagerness. This morning, Tyler had not come to get me for my run, but he was here. Now, shouldn't I go to him? A man was standing near the boys, and he put a hand up in the air. He was holding some kind of a toy in it, something black and shiny. The toy made a loud noise. I twitched in surprise, and all the boys started running toward the forest. Running! Toby wants to go with them. I squirmed harder and whined. Tyler was running without me. This wasn't what was supposed to happen. When Tyler ran, I belonged to him. Toby, take it easy, Mona said. She put me down on the grass and fumbled with my leash. I had to get Tyler. I lunged forward. My leash slipped through Mona's fingers. Toby, she shouted, but I was too busy to take care of her right at that moment. I tore across the grass, my leash trailing behind me, whipping like a snake. I dodged trampling feet and grabbing hands. The boys had nearly reached the trees by now. I'd catch them. After all the running Tyler and I had done, my legs were strong and the pads of my paws were tough. Those boys could not get away from me. Now I was in the forest, and Tyler was right ahead of me. He was running behind the other boys just as he used to. Pretty soon, I was at his heels. Toby? Tyler gasped in surprise, looking down at me. I yipped up at him happily. He'd forgotten to come and get me for this run, but I forgave him. Now that we were running together, everything was all right. It was better than all right. It was perfect. Good dog, Toby, Tyler said, pulling in big breaths between his words. He reached down and, without missing a step, unsnapped my leash, winding it around his fist. I darted around Tyler's feet so that I could run ahead of him. Where was the ranch? Weren't we going there? I was afraid Tyler might have gotten confused and taken the wrong road. I was sure I could find the right one. No matter how hard I sniffed, I could not smell a whiff of Sadie, or Walt, on the warm breeze that drifted to me. But when we broke out from under the trees, our path ran alongside a fenced-in meadow. On the other side of the fence were some of those enormous black and white dogs. So obviously, we would get to the ranch soon. I sped up so I could bark at the big dogs. The big dogs ignored me. They usually did. I wondered why they never barked back. Tyler sped up too. He stayed close. The pack of boys ahead of us had begun to spread out, some running a bit slower, some pushing ahead of the rest. A boy in dark shorts was running just in front of us as we jogged along the fence that held the big dogs in. I passed him, and then another boy. Somewhere up ahead, the ranch would be waiting, and I'd get a big bowl of cool water and play with Sadie and greet Walt. I could hardly wait. I glanced back and discovered, to my great joy, that Tyler had finally figured out how to play chase me. He was right behind me. I wagged my tail for him and looked ahead again. Slowly we passed boy after boy. Our trail took us back under more trees and over a small bridge with a skinny creek trickling underneath. Tyler's feet pounded on the wooden boards, and my claws scratched them. I would have liked to stop for a drink, but I didn't want to lose the sensational game that we were all playing. A drink could come later. A boy ahead of us tried to jump over a log that lay in the path. He stumbled, though, and fell to his hands and knees. I bounded over the log easily and stopped to check on the fallen boy. I licked his face. It was nice and sweaty. Tasty. You okay? Tyler shouted from behind. Yeah, okay, the boy gasped, getting slowly to his feet. Tyler hurdled the log before the boy could start running again, and I dashed out in front of Tyler once more. Our path wound in slow curves and then led us down a slope. I could see a break in the trees ahead and sunlight shining on grass. Only one boy was ahead of Tyler and me now, halfway down the slope. He wore a light-colored t-shirt and dark shoes. When he looked back over his shoulder, I barked at him happily. He knew how to play Chase Me, too. He was asking me to come and get him. I was delighted to oblige. I put on speed as we headed down the slope, and Tyler, breathing hard now, stayed close behind. We were going to catch that other boy any second now. The boy in the dark shoes was right in front of us when we broke out from under the shadows of the trees and into the sunlight. But he was breathing hard, and his legs were starting to wobble a bit with each step. I tore around the boy, my claws digging deep into the earth. Now I was running all by myself, ahead of Tyler and all of the pack. I looked back to be sure that they understood what to do. It was their turn to play Chase Me now. The boy in the dark shoes was wobbling more and more. He began to slow down. Tyler did not. He ran steadily, not fast, but never faltering. He drew close to the other boy. For a short time they ran side by side. Then Tyler slowly pulled ahead. It was funny. Tyler used to like running behind all the other boys. Then he had wanted to run just with me. Now it seemed as if his favorite thing was to run with lots of boys again, but in front, not behind. At least the smile on his face as he passed the boy in the dark shoes made it look like being in front was his favorite thing. But then that smile faded. I turned to look ahead and saw that a big hill was rising up in front of us. I charged up it, looking back often to encourage Tyler and the other boy to remember the rules of Chase Me. I was in the front now, and they had to catch me if they could. Tyler was going slower now. The smile was off his face, but his feet were still steady on the ground. The boy in the dark shoes was behind him, and even from where I was running, I could hear how hard that boy was panting.